Hey there, Jim Rohn here. Let me ask you something that might be quietly sitting at the back of your mind. Can avoidant people really change? You've seen their walls. You've felt their distance. You've tried everything, being patient, being understanding, even being smaller, just to hold the relationship together. But the emotional closeness you long for always seems to slip away the moment things get real. And maybe, just maybe, you've seen glimpses of something deeper in them. A softness under the surface, a flicker of connection that gives you hope. So you stay wondering, is it possible they could change? Could we actually have something real if they just opened up? If that's you, this video is going to give you some much-needed clarity, because the answer is yes, avoidant partners can change. But, and this is important, they won't change just because you love them harder. They won't change just because you wait longer. Real change only happens when specific internal shifts take place. Without these 5 critical things, you're not in a relationship, you're in a one-sided emotional performance. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 non-negotiable things that must happen before an avoidant partner is truly ready to show up differently. You'll learn what real growth looks like and how to tell the difference between a genuine shift and another emotional cycle on repeat. So, if you're ready to stop guessing, stop overfunctioning, and finally get clear on whether this connection can become something healthy, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I post weekly videos to help you navigate love boundaries and emotional healing with strength and self-respect. Let's dive in. To really understand whether avoidant people can change, we first have to understand why they became avoidant in the first place. Avoidant attachment doesn't come out of nowhere. It's built over time, often starting in childhood. Many avoidant individuals grew up in environments where vulnerability wasn't safe. Maybe their parents dismissed their emotions, punished them for expressing needs, or simply weren't emotionally available themselves. So as children, they learned to survive by turning inward. They stopped reaching out. They told themselves, I'm better off handling things on my own. And that survival strategy worked, at least in the short term. It protected them from disappointment, rejection, or shame. But it also came at a cost. These beliefs harden into internal rules like, don't rely on anyone, don't show need, intimacy is risky. Fast forward to adulthood, and those same strategies show up in romantic relationships. Not because they don't want love, but because love closeness and emotional exposure feel unsafe. Intimacy triggers old alarms in their nervous system. So when things start to feel emotionally intense, their reflex is to withdraw, shut down, or create distance. Here's where it gets even more complicated. Many avoidants don't see their behavior as a problem. To them, pulling away feels like emotional regulation. It feels like strength, like control. Emotional distance doesn't just feel normal, it feels necessary. That's why surface-level change, like saying, I'll try harder, or temporarily showing more affection, usually doesn't stick. Real transformation requires more than new behaviors. It requires a complete shift in how they view connection, safety, and emotional risk. This is why you can't force or love someone into change until they recognize that their emotional distancing is a form of protection that also limits love. There's no motivation to grow. Real change begins when they see their avoidant patterns not just as personality traits, but as learned strategies that once helped but are now hurting their ability to connect. That's when the door opens. But it has to come from them, not from pressure, not from you overfunctioning, but from an inner awareness that says, I want something different. I want to show up even if it's hard. That's where we begin. And in the next part, we'll break down exactly what needs to happen for that change to take root. If you're wondering whether someone with an avoidant attachment style can truly change, the answer is yes, but only if they move through 5 key internal shifts. These aren't surface-level tweaks like texting more often or saying, I love you once in a while. These are deep, sometimes uncomfortable transformations that touch the root of their emotional wiring. Without these 5 things, you're not in a relationship, you're stuck in a loop. But when these changes start to happen, you begin to see something new, not perfection, but presence, not fear, but effort. So let's walk through each one. 1. Awareness. This is the first and most essential step. Avoidant individuals have to become aware that they even have an attachment style that limits their ability to love and be loved. That means noticing the pattern, how they disconnect when things get close, how they intellectualize emotions, how they fear being needed or needing others. Often, this realization doesn't happen because someone points it out. It happens because something painful wakes them up. Maybe a relationship ends and they realize, I never really let them in. Maybe they hit a wall of loneliness or see a pattern they can't ignore anymore. Whatever it is, this step is about clarity. This isn't just how I am. This is a pattern, and it's keeping me from real connection. 2. Emotional ownership. Once awareness kicks in, the next shift is emotional ownership. This is where the avoidant stops blaming everyone else for the problems in their relationships. They stop saying things like, my ex was too emotional, or people just expect too much from me, and instead start saying, I push people away when they get too close, and I want to understand why. That shift from defensiveness to curiosity is huge. It's not about shame or self-judgment. It's about responsibility. Emotional ownership means they begin to see their avoidant responses not as someone else's fault, but as their own protective habits that need healing. This is where true growth begins. 3. Emotional regulation skills. This is one of the most challenging parts. Avoidants typically manage emotional overwhelm by shutting down, detaching, or minimizing feelings. So real change means learning how to stay with uncomfortable emotions like fear, sadness, vulnerability, instead of retreating from them. That's a big ask, especially if they were never taught how to do this growing up. But it's necessary, because connection isn't just about feeling the good stuff. It's about being able to tolerate the discomfort that intimacy brings, the fear of being seen, the messiness of conflict. The vulnerability of saying, I need you, and not knowing what comes next. Learning to regulate rather than escape is what makes deeper connection possible. Let me give you a real-world example. I once worked with a man named Sean. He was deeply avoidant and had a long trail of relationships that ended just when they were getting serious. He didn't yell or cheat or mistreat his partners. He just shut down. And every breakup left him confused, even though he was the one pulling away. When we started working together, Sean realized that any sign of emotional need from his partner made his body feel unsafe. His instinct was to retreat. But instead of judging himself, he began to practice staying with those moments, breathing through them, naming them. Over time, that gave him the capacity to remain present even when connection felt scary. That's what emotional regulation looks like in action. 4. Willingness to enter discomfort. Change isn't easy, and it definitely isn't comfortable. This step is all about emotional courage. Avoidants have to be willing to do the opposite of what their instincts tell them. Instead of running from a difficult conversation, they stay. Instead of ghosting when things get deep, they explain. Instead of choosing isolation when they feel overwhelmed, they reach out. This is where growth gets real, not in big dramatic moments, but in small, repeated acts of courage. Choosing to stay when everything inside says, leave. Choosing to speak when silence feels safer. This willingness is what breaks the old cycle. 5. Support and structure. Avoidant attachment patterns are deeply ingrained. They're not just habits. They're survival strategies that were learned early and reinforced over years. That's why change rarely happens in isolation. Support, whether through therapy, coaching, or structured self-work, is essential. It's not just about insight. It's about retraining the nervous system, about learning new relational skills, about practicing emotional honesty over and over again until it becomes a new normal. Avoidants need guidance to stay accountable, reflect honestly, and challenge their defaults. And that support creates the space for lasting transformation. So can avoidance change? Yes, but only if these 5 things are in motion. Awareness, ownership, regulation, courage, and consistent support. And here's the truth. Not every avoidant will choose this path. Some will stay stuck in their comfort zones, even if it means living behind emotional walls. But others will choose to grow not just for a partner, but for themselves. Because real connection, the kind that lasts, starts with facing what you used to avoid. In the next section, we'll talk about what you can do as a partner or ex-partner of someone avoidant, how to support without self-abandoning, and how to tell when it's time to let go. Because while it's possible for them to change, it's just as important for you to stay anchored in your truth too. Stay with me. We're getting to the heart of it. If you're someone who loves or has loved an avoidant partner, I want to speak directly to you for a moment, because I know how exhausting it can be, how confusing, how you find yourself giving more and more, hoping that if you're just patient enough, gentle enough, consistent enough, they'll eventually feel safe enough to let you in. I know the pain of trying to be the emotional bridge in a relationship where the other person keeps pulling away. But here's something you need to hear clearly. You cannot do their emotional work for them. You can be compassionate, absolutely. You can understand where their avoidance comes from. You can even hold space in moments when they open up or try to connect. But there's a line, and that line is crossed when you start doing all the emotional heavy lifting, checking in, first regulating the relationship dynamics, minimizing your own needs to avoid triggering their shutdowns. That's not love, that's emotional overfunctioning. And over time, it leads to resentment burnout and a deep disconnection from yourself. Let's be honest, some avoidant partners are capable of change, but not all are willing to change. And if you stay in a relationship waiting for someone else to become emotionally available while consistently abandoning your own needs, that's a slow erosion of self-worth. The hardest truth: you can't love someone into growth. You can't be patient enough to heal their attachment wounds. That choice has to come from them. And until it does, you have every right and every reason to stop bending yourself into shapes that were never meant for you. Take Julia, for example. She spent 3 years in a relationship with a man who constantly kept her at arm's length. She was always the one initiating connection, calming him down during conflicts, and softening her own emotional needs so he wouldn't feel pressured. Eventually, she realized that while she was trying to be the safe place for him, she had completely lost touch with what safety looked like for her. And when she finally stepped back, gave him space, and stopped doing the work, for both of them she saw the truth. He wasn't ready, not because she wasn't lovable, but because he wasn't available. Loving someone doesn't mean carrying them. It means meeting each other in the middle. Mutual vulnerability, mutual effort, mutual presence. And if the connection is one-sided, that's not a partnership, it's an emotional performance. You shouldn't have to suppress your feelings to avoid triggering their discomfort. You shouldn't have to chase scraps of affection just to feel close. That's not sustainable, and it's not healthy. So if you're with someone avoidant and you're constantly asking, how can I make them feel safe? Flip the question, do I feel emotionally safe with them? Because your needs matter too. Your feelings count. And you deserve a relationship where showing up fully doesn't feel like a risk. It feels like the norm. You can still care about them. You can still wish them healing, but you do not have to be the one who stays while they figure it out. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back, not in anger, but in truth, because you cannot build intimacy with someone who is committed to avoiding it. In the next part of this video, we'll explore how to respond when an avoidant ex circles back, what to look for if you're wondering whether they've actually changed, and how to stay grounded in your truth. No matter what they say, you're not here to fix anyone. You're here to protect your peace and reconnect with you. Let's talk about how. Let's end with the truth that so many people need but rarely hear clearly. Yes, avoidance can change, but not all will. Change isn't about luck. It's not about timing. It's about choice. It takes more than hope, more than chemistry, and more than love. It takes awareness of their attachment patterns, emotional accountability for how their behavior affects others. The courage to stay present in uncomfortable emotional moments, and a long-term commitment to doing the inner work consistently, not just when it's convenient. Until those things are in motion, love alone will never be enough to hold the relationship together. You can't be the one doing the emotional work for both of you. You can't keep shrinking, softening, or silencing yourself just to maintain a connection. That's not real intimacy, it's survival. But here's the hopeful part. When an avoidant person does choose the path of growth, everything changes. That distant self-protective armor starts to soften. They begin to show up, speak honestly, and take responsibility for their emotional presence. They become capable of true vulnerable connection, not perfectly, but willingly. And from there, real love, the kind that feels mutual grounding and secure, can actually take root. If you've been in the trenches of a relationship with an avoidant partner, I want to thank you for watching this video. You're not alone in this, and your desire for deeper connection, emotional safety, and reciprocity isn't too much. It's healthy, it's valid, and it's worth protecting. If this video gave you insight or helped you feel seen, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Every week, I share grounded, emotionally honest content to help you navigate love healing and boundaries with clarity and self-respect, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What part of this resonated most? Have you ever watched an avoidant partner try to grow or stay stuck? Share your experience below. Your voice might be the exact thing someone else needs to hear. Until next time, stay true to yourself. Choose peace over patterns. And remember, love should feel safe to stand in, not something you have to chase.